Hello everybody, welcome to My Hero Academia, chapter number 357 review. This chapter is titled, Wounded Hero, Burning Bright and True. Now, last chapter was chapter 356, would you believe it? But in the last chapter, we pretty much had Endeavor get back up from the ground, and we had a very long monologue about his inner weakness is the thing that he's always been trying to defeat. And yeah, he pretty much just overwhelmed All For One after All For One had reconstructed his mask back together. But that's all there was to it. In this chapter, we come back with All For One it seems that he put up like a force shield around him, and he was like, that was a close one. Actual danger. And he said, I knew you would come hard at me, but I never expected that the likes of you would make me live the pain and misery of that day, as he sort of flashes to All Might whenever he was in his prime and he had gone to take down All For One that fateful day, probably 6 years ago at this point, but 5 years ago at the beginning of the series. And he says, wounded heroes are always the scariest. As we see Endeavor get really close up to All For One's face as he comes and he rears up for another punch, and Hawks is like, you're too slow, as he throws some more feathers to go help out Endeavor, as Endeavor uses vanishing jet burn and smashes All For One all the way from Windale or at the sky all the way back down to the ground. And there's a lot of heroes down there and a lot of villains down there too, and they're all like, yikes, that's hot, Endeavor. I thought the plan was to finish him all the way up high. And we see Hawk saying, that wasn't the right moment for Prominence Burn. And Endeavor's like, no, didn't you see him going to defensive? And that's not a move I can fire off multiple times. I've got to physically rip apart his defenses to be sure that the big one hits the mark. And Hawk's is like, keeping a cool head, huh? And Endeavor's like, no, I can't hold back at this range. As we finally see all the way on the ground that All For One is just landed there. And we see Conley Woods, and he's like, it's All For One. And he's like, everyone, retreat. And there's another hero there, and he's like, why? It's our chance to bum rush him. And Conley Woods grabs on to this nameless hero with his vines and barely pulls him out of the way before Endeavor comes slamming down to the ground with all his firepower. And Conley Woods says, above all else, Endeavor is coming through. As Endeavor's just on the ground and he's just screaming with all his might. And he just takes All For One by the shirt and just drags him across the ground, ripping up multiple trees as we see, and just setting ablaze the environment. And All For One is like, the swarming gnats cracked my mask, and now my body won't move as I command. But at this range, he is within my reach. As it almost sees that Endeavor is firing lasers out of his eyes, which I'm guessing he's just directing to fire that way, because I don't know what else this could be. And All For One is like, gah! And Endeavor's, those hands of yours ruin people's futures. You know a thing or two about, and All For One says, you know a thing or two about that. And Endeavor's like, no, you're right. My mistakes took form as Toya, leading to so many stolen futures. The past never dies. Rage, resentment, and even penance would gather towards the future. And the future's a path for the young, with so many branching choices. That's why I must win this, so that when those kids walk that path, my past won't stand in their way. As Endeavor actually says this time, I'll keep paying my penance. I'll win today and keep my eyes on Toya. I'll keep raging against myself. As he's been saying this, he just whenever he's talking about the students, we see sort of a cut to whenever Todoroki was playing with the children during that whole provisional licensing exam arc there. And we also see a flash up to the future of Todoroki looking like what he'll apparently sort of look like as an adult, and all of the heroes in front too. And he's just walking up to them as they are what will become the future of heroes. And he wants to make sure that his past is out of the way. But then we go back as All For One is pretty much burnt to a crisp. He is he's turning to charcoal. He's doing a Dobby almost and being burnt alive. And Endeavor's like, we've already confirmed that he doesn't have hyperregion. And even if he did and we're keeping it secret, without durable body like Shigaraki's, he's a dead man. As Hawks screams, get away from him, Endeavor. And All For One, in almost a truly black panel, but besides the rings around his eyes, he's like, did you really think I'd casually saunter up to the big finale empty-handed? This body had already served its purpose and was destined for a scrap heap anyway, so why not try this out? As we see Eri, and some capsules just falling from the sky around her, as we see All For One saying, heroes don't have a monopoly on big sacrificial moments, you know. And as somebody says, villains are also scariest when wounded. As we see this insane panel of All For One, a full page spread, page 15, check it out, as he has an ear growing back and an eye forming its way back into the socket, as he's just got his mouth wide open and it's just white it's a brilliant panel. Check it out if you haven't. It's really like, oh my gosh, so did he have another one of the Eri not quirk rewind bullets, but like a rewind capsule thing that he did something with, and now he is reverting back to what he originally was for, say, when All Might took him down? Because if so, that is a really interesting development that I don't think a lot of people predicted, is that Eri's power would be coming into play here, which is so interesting. But then we, for the final page, we cut over to Deku, who is now flying across the mainland. No, not mainland yet. He's still over the ocean. My bad. But we see the first user of One For All, Yoshi, come out, and he's like, Midoriya, I've got a bad feeling about this. As Deku's like, the first, what is it? And he sees all the way up in the sky, there's just some dots that we don't even know what they are yet. And they're just there. And Deku's like, what's that? As the chapter ends. Another 15-pager, but hey, it's fine. It was pretty much, this chapter did what it was supposed to do. It was supposed to set up that All For One is now pulling this quirk, or this body regenerating, to go back in time to what he used to be, which will mean that. And also, is Deku about to run into him? Is he about to have a part in this All For One fight and not just Shigaraki's fight, which would be really interesting. But yeah, that's this chapter. I really like all of this stuff of Endeavor, that he is beating him up. And is Endeavor tapped out now? Who's going to be this new version of All For One? What's going on? What does Deku see? Oh boy, we'll figure out next chapter. But this has been the chapter 357 review of My Hero Academia. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Glowplasma231 out.